Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of UC Weekly News. Now, I know I promised a lot of you last week that I would be showing you some tech demos of some of the devices that I've collected over the last couple of months, and that show's done, except we had some breaking news this week that I figured was more important, so we're preempting that. That'll be on next week. This week, we're going to talk about the news that we heard yesterday, as we were recording this, that Forte is leaving GPA, which used to be the Global Presence Alliance. And I have two esteemed colleagues as my guests here that'll give some opinions on it. Mark, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Hey, everybody. Mark Pescatore, Content Director for Systems Contractor News.
And we were just together at your AVI Summit, which was last week's show. So that was a great event, and thank you for that. And Mr. Albright, your turn. Introduce yourself, my author friend.
Yeah, my name is Tim Albright, founder, and I think my title is president at AV Nation, but make a lot of content, and I wrote a book. So yes.
More about the book. Tell people the name and where you can find it.
Name of the book is Building on Ashes. It is a framework for overcoming failure, a lot of resilience in there, a lot of mentorship, and just some practical advice for getting up after you've been knocked down.
And I just got my autographed copy, and that's great. So if you give Tim a hard enough time, he'll get you an autographed copy, or maybe not. But
that's book. Fair.
Didn't get mine. Sorry, just a little something in my throat there.
So the story that we heard was that that Guy Campos works for AV Magazine in the UK, brilliant guy, a good friend, and we see him at trade shows. And he broke the story yesterday. Apparently, for most of us who did not know, although I did call my friends at Forte and got it confirmed that they have decided to leave GPA. So, Tim, you've been around as long as I have. Mark, you as well. But Tim, what's the history of GPA? Can you give that to us, like while standing on one foot?
While standing on one foot and chewing gum and walking all at the same time. Roughly, GPA is an association of integrators that got together and said, look, we're all doing work around the world with our various clients and customers. Let's put together some agreements, more than just a handshake, right? That's because that's kind of what it was at that point. Because if we've got multinational customers, well, then we need to be able to support them multinationally. And that is one of the essence of GPA. It is not unlike some of the competitors to GPA that in that, if Mark has an office in Tampa and I have an office in St. Louis and my customer in St. Louis needs a job done in Tampa, I'm going to say, Mark, I need you to take care of my customer. And he goes, I got you. And I promise not to steal them. Right. Roughly, that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, those type of alliances have been around for a while, and I used to make the joke that in our industry, everybody's both pimps and prostitutes. That's kind of what we are and what we do. So we'll resell ourselves as much as we'll resell somebody else's. But early days on market was the Global Presence Alliance, right? They were using all of the words, and a lot of the connections were loose. Did you have any contact with them back in those days?
Never. To me, this is it's kind of different. Like I know the easy comparison is with like PSNI, right? But PSNI is different. It's more like, hi, we're a member of PSNI, whereas the way I understand it, GPA is I'm my own guy. I just happen to be affiliated with these guys. It's a different way of doing business, I think. If my understanding is correct, they're doing business a little differently, and it's just now Forte wants to not do business with GPA anymore, and I'm guessing go out on their own.
Yeah, they had just done some purchasing of, I believe, some companies in Europe. And it looks like, and that's one of the things we need to speculate about, it looks like they may want to grow further. And, they don't want to compete against, or they do want to compete against other GPA companies. Now, back in my 5 lifetimes ago, when I was working for Dimension Data, we did some bidding against the then Global Presence Alliance. It was very loosely organized back then. I remember hearing from a client that said we won the deal against Global Presence Alliance because when they asked the question, well, where do the purchase orders go? And where do the payments go? They didn't have an answer. They all raised their hands. So 5 different companies they really hadn't worked that stuff out. Then I believe Whitlock kind of stepped up a little bit and took from an America standpoint a lead position, and they left the Global Presence Alliance. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes in the industry, and now with Forte leaving, I guess they're probably going to be looking for another large America's integrator. What do you guys think?
They will, and just to be fair, Whitlock left simply because they merged slash got acquired by when the AVI SPL deal came through, right? And I do not know the internal, workings of GPA, but either AVI SPL did not want to be a part of it, or GPA did not want SPL part of that group. So that's how that one happened, right? It wasn't like Whitlock was like peace out. That they either will be, they certainly will need to replace Forte, right? In that group. The question is, who do they get? And when you look at um, I've said this for many years. One of my favorite episodes that Mark does is the SCN Top 50. If you look at that list, right, the top 10 are almost all spoken for in some way, shape, or form. So then you're going to start going into, most likely the sub $100 million range, which there's nothing wrong with that in any way, shape, or form. There are some fine integrators in that list, but you're not going to replace certainly the revenue that Forte has.
Do you agree, Mark?
I You stole my thunder, Tim. You stole my list. But no,
I'm trying to like promote you.
Well, Mark,
but
I gotta be honest with you, and I've said this to you directly to your face, and I've talked about this with other people as well. I debate that there are still 50 to be in a top 50.
Oh,
I
there's
think
more than 50.
I think we're in a shrinking industry, and I think it's time to acknowledge that.
Okay, hang on for a second here.
save me, Tim. Save me from that.
There are very few times I will disagree with Mr. Danto. And I say this almost every time I cover Mark's list in December. The fascinating thing and the thing about our industry is that it is such an entrepreneurial industry. That spirit is running through the veins of almost everybody in this industry. And what happens is, yes, AVIS PL and Diversified and CTI, the company that I work for, and others, they will do mergers, they will do acquisitions all year long, right? And it allows people to either join a larger organization, or what also happens is folks will say, you know what? I think SPL is a great organization. I just want to be part of something not so big. And so they will roll out their own AV integration firm. And so what you have is you have this bottom up effect building the foundation of that top 50 list. So I think there's way more.
Oh, there's a lot more out there. The problem is, remember, it's voluntary. People who go on the SCN Top 50 list are saying, "Here, let me open the books up to Mark Pescatore." They don't actually let me in the building, but they are sharing their financial information not only with me but with the world. And there are a lot of integrators out there who don't want to do that. So that's okay. But yeah, I would agree with Tim that getting back to GPA. I'm betting there's somebody on that list who might really be interested in taking Forte's place.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a good opportunity.
I'm gonna keep being devil's advocate here just a little bit, just because I like to see you guys riled up. But I go back in the industry to the days of Select AV. Before they were Excel, before they were purchased. I go back to, VCA. We know what happened with VCA and with Yorktel. Yorktel is now Yorktel Kinley. Yes, there are new entrepreneurial companies coming, but they're ones that are coming out of. I want to be careful what I say here because this is my opinion and I'm on record. They're coming out of a future that Avixa ignored. They're coming out of an IT integrator. You know what? I can run low voltage cable. I already do. You know what? I can slap in a 1 or 2 piece system in a room. I already do. So I'm going to put in this company's data center and their AV rooms, and they're winning the jobs. And the mom and pop AV integrators of years gone by are either selling for pennies on the dollar, or dimes on the dollar. I don't know. You want to be gracious, will be gracious. But that's the shrinking part. If you've got to build a circular room with a 2-story dome that needs 12 microphones open, you know what? You go to that top 50 list and maybe 3 can do it, or maybe 2, and everybody else is doing the same one after another pablum installations because that's what the industry has become. Some people do stadiums, some people do big auditoriums, Dolby 7.1 installations, but most of them don't have the qualifications to, and the products are becoming easier to install. Press a button and it's set up. So that was the devil's advocate piece. So tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, if you are a call it 10 to $20 million integrator, you have the expertise and the skill set to be really great at maybe one or two things, and that's okay. I have a friend in St. Louis who his bread and butter is is medical, is hospitals and things of that nature, and he does an amazing job at that. And but that's what him and his team knows. That's what his customer base is. That's what he has no desire to do stadiums. Now, him maybe he does have a desire. He just doesn't have the skill set, right, and the manpower to do it. So just because somebody's not doing fantastic, really complicated things, doesn't make them any less of an integrator, nor does it make them any less viable in the market. It just means they've specialized in this one thing and they're really good because they're focused on that. Yes, as you increase revenue, yes, as you look to expand your borders and look at new markets, then you've got to go, okay, well, we're really great at this one thing. Maybe we could expand and become really great at something else, but that's going to require investment in both your people as well as some sort of infrastructure.
The one I go back to, David, is house of worship. Now, every church is different, every structure is different, but the goal is the same. The person in the front has to be heard by the people in the back. And as a result, there are people who specialize just in house of worship installations. You know what? There's nothing wrong with that because it's a very special market area for them to concentrate on. So I don't have a problem with people specializing. And I think what would happen, I would guess that if you're special in one particular area, you're probably very qualified to do other things. You just may not realize it.
Okay, that's fair. Well, like I said, as being devil's advocate, let's move on to we have absolutely no inside information here, and we're all just speculating. So take this for what it's worth. But who do we think might step in? Who do we think might buy in? I'm sure there's going to be some cash involved. And from the other perspective, I guess Forte, if they're doing this, they're not done buying either. So who might be out there that Forte might be looking at? So those are two. Mark, I'll go to you. Some very interesting questions there. Who might be the right group to join GPA?
Well, I might have a little insight on Forte because I reached out and asked them, and they gave me a quote. GPA did not give me a quote. They did not give me any information past the slightly fluffy, shall we say, press release. But from Jeff Stebner over at, he's the chairman and CEO of Forte. He said, Forte's long-term growth strategy includes expanding our own global presence to support customers wherever they operate. As we continue to grow our operations in Europe, both organically and through acquisitions, we'll carefully look at other regions of the world for expansion. Our aim is to build a consistent, scalable model that delivers the same high-quality experience our enterprise customers expect. Our platform will continue to rely on great partnerships in those regions where there is a mutual focus to provide global customers speed, predictability, and transparency. There's a little more that goes on, but basically what I'm getting out of that quote is we're going to expand, and I don't think they're going to take a long time to do it.
Okay, so we should expect some news between now and the end of December about companies that might be joining. And you know what? We've all become a little bit numb to the news of XYZ integrator is buying XYZ integrator. There's like one every other week. So we won't be surprised. But and any suggestions? Anybody you think that's ripe for joining with Forte?
Oh,
You can say no.
I am not going to speculate on that.
Well,
and I'm not going to speculate on who should be joining GPA because I'm taking a low over. I'm looking over here at my list going, oh, I'm not saying their name out loud.
But oh no, I will. I don't care. I'll happily do that. But I'm giving you guys the shot first.
Yeah, Mark and I are. You listen to what Jeff said there, Stabner. He's talking about global expansion, right? And
Yep.
as much as Mark and I have attended ISE and other international shows, I'm going to speak for myself here. I have a handful of connections with non-US integrators, but I am woefully unprepared for that part of the conversation, right? Like again, I know a handful of them just because I've made connections at ISC and some other shows, but having the working knowledge to say, oh, this person in Italy or this person in Nairobi or this person in Dubai would be a great fit. I'm not. Yeah, I'm with Mark. I'm not. I have no knowledge here.
Okay, so let's take it in the other direction. Let's talk about who might be the right U.S. integrator to be joining the GPA team. Now, if you look at share of voice, which is a chart I just published, the talking points chart, and we now do our monthly insider report. We now have a separate one for AV, which I'm writing. So I put together a share of voice based on what I'm hearing in the news. You guys, you're not going to be surprised by the top four. The top four are AVI SPL, CTI, Forte, and now Yorktel Kinley. And did I miss one in there?
I mean, diversified.
Diversified.
Well, no, diversified. Pretty much the news you get about diversified is their weekly reorg. So and so is taking over for so and so. So and so is leaving. That honestly drops their share of voice down. It becomes
What about
negative than
EOS?
positive.
EOS IT Solutions? They're huge.
I absolutely. Well, who do you think? Do you think it would be one of the big guys jumping in, or do you think it's going to be one of these somewhere between 10 and 20s using this as an opportunity to grow? Although honestly, Yorkville Kinley, that's new. They're owned by private equity. PE looks at growth. That's actually probably not a bad candidate.
It's not a bad candidate. I'm not going to give you a specific name. I'm going to give you um, a character, a markup here. This is an AV integrator who either is owned by or is part of an IT integrator in some way, shape, or form, right? So they've got both the back end IT infrastructure and the know-how, as well as an AV division that is looking to grow or looking to support their customers internationally.
How much of the operations did Forte carry? How big was their lift with GPA? Do either of you guys know? Because I was under the impression that it was a pretty big lift. That, from an organizational standpoint, from processing documents and PO and as builts, that the work was spread around, but they were really carrying most of that weight. At least that
I
was
don't
the
know. I
impression
don't
I
know
got.
specifically. I don't know specifically how much, but I do know that they were a major player.
Mhm.
I mean, they were on they were in not the board of directors, but you know what I mean. They were in the management suite. So
Yeah, so
again,
I'm thinking, Tim, that your comment is dead on in terms of what you're looking at from a player in terms of market value, but we also have to consider operational. Somebody's going to have to step in and help with that organization, or maybe the existing GPA members step up and it's not needed anymore. But it's interesting. It's interesting that all of this is breaking now after what was essentially a quiet summer, and that a target for December. I mean, what do you guys think about that? That we're gonna keep being best of friends through to December, and then we're not anymore.
Well, there's a contract there, right? I mean, just like, as Mark mentioned, the closest comparison to GPA is PSNI. I have a long, storied history with PSNI, so I'm trying to be middle of the fence here, but there are agreements and there are annual commitments. So most likely, again, we're speculating here, most likely what happened was Forte made the decision, not to re-up or renew or somewhere, shape, or form. Both of them could have said, at the end of our contract, we're going to part ways. That is just nothing more than just that's when the contract ends, is the way I see it, and them giving everybody involved enough of a heads up, say, hey, by the way, at the end of this calendar year, at the end of this contract, we're done, we're out.
Okay. All right. So,
there
Mark,
are going to be
go ahead.
there's entanglements there, Dave. I mean, they have entanglements within the organization because remember, Forte's been there for 6 years, so you can't just snap your fingers and say we're done. I mean, all these, like when we get acquisition announcements all the time, as you said, between manufacturers, between integrators, we get the thing that says, okay, we're joining forces. How long? And Tim's company could certainly answer this. How long does it take to get to that press release? It wasn't 2 weeks. So this is going to get Tim knows.
Nope.
So it's going to take them time. If they want to break away, that's fine. Neither one said who initiated this.
Yeah.
I would guess it's Forte, but no one's actually said who wanted to do this. But either way, it's going to take time to untangle everyone. That's all.
All right. So, one last question: what do you do now if you're a Forte or GPA customer? either in the US or anywhere in the world. And now you see that GPA is going to be fundamentally changing. Do you wait and see? Do you start looking at other options? Do you send out an RFI? What do you think, Mark?
I think that they made a point in the press release of saying that if you're already a customer, we're going to take care of you. And I think that's important. And I don't think GPA or Forte wants to hurt the other. They just want to go their separate ways. So I think there's going to be stability there. I think there will be support there. And if you're looking to GPA to do your project, I think you can do that with complete confidence, because GPA, Forte was part of GPA, but GPA is not Forte. It's it's its own entity. It's still got plenty of people and plenty of people within organizations to help you solve your problems, and vice versa. Forte, if you're going to Forte because of their GPA connections, I would talk with GPA. I would talk with Forte. God, all these acronyms. I would talk with Forte about it, but I'm sure they're going to make sure you're covered as well.
All right, well, Tim, you got to expect that there's going to be some FUD here from competitors, globally.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have all sorts of things happening coming out of the woodwork. I mean, it's an opportunity, right, for competitors of both to kind of point to what could be perceived as instability, what could be perceived as kind of a disruption, and it will be on both of them to do exactly what Mark said, which is to assure the customers, their existing customers, that we are going to take care of you come hell or high water. The customer, as should happen to every integrator, the customer and your satisfaction should come first, and so they need to make sure that they communicate that and deliver that very well.
And in other words, David, you playing devil's advocate is basically writing up the marketing copy for all the competitors.
If it wasn't me, it'd be ChatGPT or Claude or something like that. So anyway,
Did he just call himself an AI?
I believe he did.
Okay.
Danto LLM.
I don't think so. It's Danto on air. There it is. So that's a lot to think about. That was a lot of speculation. None of us really know where this is going to go, but it's going to be interesting to watch. I think my biggest point here is that they've said that they're going to close this deal at December 31st, and I have this feeling they may decide that they're competing, not cooperating, sometime a little earlier than that. But regardless of what happens, thank you very much for watching this week. Mark, how can people get in touch with you?
You can reach us at avnetwork.com.
Thank you, Mark. And Tim, same question?
avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.
And you guys know where I am here pretty much every Monday on whatever channel you're watching this on. Thanks very much for watching. We really do appreciate it. And we'll see you next week with the show that we postponed, looking at all the cool toys and everything else. Take care.